The following is a non-profit horror story narration. The story narrated with full permission and cooperation is written and owned by the author, who is credited in the subject line and in the description down below, along with a link to the original story. This video may contain some material such as violence, creepiness, jump scares, adult language, and suggested content which may not be suitable for some viewers. Please support the official release, and viewer discretion is advised. I tried to stop drinking alcohol completely, but it was, to my surprise, a quite difficult feat to do. When I quit for almost a day, I had an overwhelming urge to drink more, and I would even start shaking. I swore and ended up drinking alcohol, but I made sure not to drink too much this time. I had to make sure I had a somewhat steady mind, and I needed to try to investigate what was going on. I had to find out who Tony and Lucy were. In addition, I also had to find out their connection to 33 Snooker Street. But how was I supposed to do that? I was not a detective. As I contemplated this, I heard a knock on the front door. Who could that be? I wondered. I opened the door and saw who it was. I frowned. The real Lucy gave me a smile. Hi there. What are you doing here? Lucy raised an eyebrow. You sent me a message inviting me over, remember? Oh, I did? My memory was getting really bad recently. Did I really message her my address and for her to come to my house? Why would I do that? Sure, come in. I opened the door to her. Lucy walked into my home and looked around. Nice place you have here, she said with a pang of surprise in her voice. What else better have I got to do, other than to clean my house? I gestured at a nearby seat for her to sit on. I heard the seat's leather crunch as she sat down. Did I say why I invited you over? Was it to apologize? Lucy sighed. You've already apologized, Michael. No, you wanted to talk about some strange things that have apparently been happening. Though I'm curious why I bothered to come, because after what you pulled in the... No, I interrupted. Listen, please. Everything I said in the coffee shop was completely true. Lucy looked at me puzzled. In the coffee shop? Yes! Remember? I left you at the coffee shop after... Lucy frowned. Now, wait a minute. Are you feeling alright? Have you blacked out again? No, I don't understand, I retorted. Michael, that happened a week ago. We've been seeing each other since. My eyes widened. I felt my heart race. What? No, I'm sure it happened yesterday. Lucy didn't even appear shocked, almost as if she was used to this by now. Michael, yesterday we were at a restaurant where you started screaming at me, then accusing me of not being real. You then went on about how I deceived you by lying about my Facebook pictures. You then stormed out of the restaurant, meaning I had to pay the fucking bill. What the fuck, Michael? Just my luck to start dating a complete alcoholic nutcase who doesn't know his own arse from his elbow. Lucy was furious. Yet, I didn't have any idea what she was talking about. Besides, did she just call me an alcoholic nutcase? I was not an alcoholic nutcase, I thought. I don't know what you're talking about. Lucy raised both of her arms at the same time in frustration. What a surprise! I think you should leave, I said. Lucy stood up, baring her teeth. Whatever, I'm gone! She then marched out of the house, leaving me even more confused than I was before. I honestly did not remember being at the restaurant with her. Was she tricking me again? Or was it possible that everything she was saying was actually the truth? However, I 100% remember her Facebook photos being of the other Lucy, and I definitely remembered her message changing. So what was going on? I took out my phone out of my pocket and observed the broken screen. I definitely remembered that happening, I thought. But then I contemplated clicking on the previous conversation with Lucy to read everything we talked about. This is bullshit, I thought. And enraged, I lobbed the phone against the wall, hearing it shatter yet again, and I charged into the bathroom. I punched the bathroom window, hearing it cracked, and punched it again. I then turned the cold tap on and felt the cold water as I splashed it over my face. Wait, was I crying? Michael, a voice whispered. Immediately I felt goosebumps. I looked into the broken mirror and I saw him. It was Tony, in which he stood behind me with a huge grin on his face. I pivoted with my fists clenched, ready to fight for my life. But he wasn't there. This is getting fucking stupid now, I thought. Then my phone rang. My phone was ringing? I nervously walked to where my phone was lying, by the wall, and with tension I picked it up. It was reading unknown number. Hello? I answered. The phone responded with a static noise that sounded kind of like if you were to leave the television on, but if it wasn't assigned to a channel. Then the phone call ended abruptly. When I looked at my phone, I saw only a black screen with cracks on it. My phone is broken, I thought. How did I receive a phone call in the first place? Was that who I think it was? In a fit of anxiety, I threw the phone yet again, but this time against the opposite wall, where it made a loud crash. Collapsing to the floor on my knees, I covered my face with both hands. This can't be happening, I yelped. I wondered why I was seeing these two people. Moreover, I also wondered why and how I was connected to it all. I had to be connected some way. But how? Think, damn it! I punched the floor multiple times, using my right hand. 33 Snooker Street, a voice whispered. Instantaneously, I froze. I looked around urgently. But yet again, I saw nothing that could indicate another person was present. 33 Snooker Street. Of course, I thought. I need to go back there and examine the room more carefully. But I was still clearly intoxicated from drinking alcohol most of the afternoon. Would it be safe to drive? I had to risk it, I thought. There's hardly any police on the road these days anyway. When I left my house, the sun was still out, in which it was covered by multiple clouds. I stumbled to my car and got in. The thought of driving Willis drunk sent shivers up my spine, but I had to check this apartment. There had to be some clue to help me out in this apartment. There had to be. When I arrived at the door of 33 Snooker Street, nothing had changed. The entire complex had seen better days. Of course, it hadn't magically transformed into the pristine complex that I saw when I came here the first time. And neither had it seemingly changed within the apartment. There had to be something here, I thought. There has to be. It took about half an hour of shifting litter, pieces of wood and paper, but eventually I found something. There was a camcorder and dozens of photographs. As I examined each photograph, I saw that they were mostly of Lucy and Tony. They seemed really happy together, and they also seemed like such a great couple. As I got to the bottom of the photos, I saw something which really made my mouth open. There were dozens of photos from Tony and Lucy's wedding. But that wasn't the part that I found creepy. I was in the wedding photo. Yes, me! I looked like a totally different man than I am now, but nonetheless, it was most certainly me. I was clean-shaven, there was a healthy glow to my skin, and I was wearing a suit. Furthermore, to make matters even more confusing, Tony had his left arm around my neck. We were both smiling at the camera. It seemed that not only did we know each other, but we were more than simple acquaintances. I shifted through the other photos, and once again I saw that I was in the majority of the wedding photos with both Tony and Lucy, smiling at the camera. One picture, though, caught my eye. It was the only photograph that nobody seemed prepared for. Everyone sat at the table were either talking to each other or eating the delicious-looking food. And Lucy was grabbing my knee underneath the table. It certainly seemed that way anyway. It seemed to be at the dinner table where the bride, groom, best man, etc. sit at when they have their dinner, and Lucy was indeed grabbing my knee with her hand. I'm sure it means nothing, I thought. I'm sure she was just being friendly. Then I remembered. I felt a sudden rush of pain in my head as the memories came flooding back. I had an affair with Lucy. I felt sweat on my face as I reminisced the memory. Yes, I was sure of it. Me and Lucy were seeing each other behind her fiancé's back for a long time. Not only that, but Tony was my best friend, and at his wedding, I was his best man. I felt tears in my eyes as the guilt began to pile up on top of me. I felt like a complete monster as I remembered actually how close I was to the pair of them. They were my childhood friends, and I went through school and university with the two of them. This was their apartment. I remember this entire complex was closed down after a serious fire occurred. Why could I forget all this? However, I did not know how the pair of them died. I have to find out, I thought. Next was the camcorder. Of course, there was no chance in hell that this camcorder would work. I pressed the button, and I pressed the button again, but nothing came on. I cursed. Of course it wouldn't work. This camcorder has probably been here for years. Then I heard the same loud static noise that I heard on my phone earlier. The noise made me feel nauseous and started to ring in my head. And the camcorder turned on by itself as it made an even louder static noise. What I saw was Lucy and myself in what appeared to be this apartment before the fire took place. The scene felt very similar. My heart began to race. But who was holding the camera? I was in the apartment kissing Lucy as I caressed her breasts, and Tommy came barging in, screaming at the pair of us, resulting in me standing up and leaping backwards. What the fuck do you think you're doing? I trusted the both of you, Tony screamed. How dare you betray me like this? Looking concerned. Calm down. If I knew... And he punched me. He drove his right fist into my face, causing my nose to explode. And then he drove the same fist into my stomach, causing me to drop to my knees. Think you can try it on with my missus, eh? He roared. Look at the fucking state of you! He said, looking at me with genuine disgust. I saw on the video that Lucy was doing nothing to help me. She had both of her arms folded. Wait. Was she smiling? No, I was sure of it. Lucy was smiling as Tony released his fury on me, as if she was enjoying this. I'll go. I coughed in the video. Oh no you don't, Tony shouted. You want a fucking piece of this? Tony then clenched his right fist and directed it towards me. You're gonna fucking apologize! Fuck you, I replied in the video. Then Tony kneed me in the chin, causing me to hurl backwards. I crashed on the table that was directly behind me. Tony! Lucy screamed as the video cut off. All I saw now was a black, dusty screen. Did that really happen? I didn't remember happening at all, but it seemed so realistic. I heard a voice outside the door. Hello, Mr. Naylor. Are you there? It's the police. Shit, I thought. Yes? I answered nervously. A police officer came into the apartment. He was a middle-aged man with a thick mustache. So you're here, it seems. I checked every apartment. It took me bleeding ages. Your neighbors phoned up concerned that you may have been under the influence while it's driving. Your car with the registration ML66VZA was seen via CCTV outside the complex. May I ask what you're doing here? I was watching a video on this camcorder, I replied. The police officer frowned. What camcorder? When I looked down, I saw only a block of wood. I dropped the block of wood on the floor, causing it to thud on the floor. Have I really been watching a video using a block of wood? Alright. What have you been taking? What drugs have you been taking? Nothing. I've never taken drugs in my life, I protested. The police officer sighed. At this time, I am placing you under arrest for suspected driving while under the influence and suspected trespassing. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. However, if you cannot find an attorney, one will be provided to you by the police. Do you understand the rights that I have explained to you? No, you have it all wrong. The police officer didn't have to exert much effort to place me under arrest. I realized that if I attempted to evade arrest, especially concerning they already knew who I was, then I could have been in a deep world of shit. The police officer was wrong, though, about one thing. I was not under the influence of drugs. They definitely had that wrong. But I was, however, under the influence of alcohol. I cursed. As I sat at the back of the police car, I heard the police officer radio in that he had made an arrest. He mentioned something amongst the lines of driving under the influence. Driving under the influence. I felt a sudden rush of pain in my head. It was a similar sensation to what I felt earlier. Then the memories came flooding back in. I remember how Tony and Lucy died. I started to breathe heavier as the realization dawned on me. How was the reason the married couple died? It was shortly after I got caught cheating with Lucy, and as a coincidence, I got the shit kicked out of me by Tony. I remember Lucy sniggering as it was happening, and I remembered the agony I felt in my heart. I got extremely drunk that week, and I drove my car. I drove my car to the area outside of their apartment complex and waited. I guzzled another bottle of vodka as I watched the main door, as if I was a hawk waiting for its prey. Then the two of them left the complex, holding hands, looking happy together. I felt rage and jealousy spread through my body as if it was cancer itself, and I stomped on the accelerator pedal. Neither Tony nor Lucy tried to save themselves. They just stared at me with their mouths ajar as my car sped towards them. Then my car crashed into the two of them, causing them to soar over my car bonnet and onto the ground. Lucy's throat was caught in the fence. I watched unremorsefully as she tried to save herself by covering her wound. As for Tony, he laid there completely motionless as blood gushed out of the back of his head. And then I sped away from the scene as I drove on. The ambulance blazed past me with the sirens on. Yet I forgot any of this actually happened. I got away with murder. How did I forget something so frightening and sinister? As I sat in the back of the police car, I began to cry. I'm a monster, I thought. No doubt the police officer just presumed I was upset because I was caught driving under the influence. But I knew the truth of what really happened. I was a monster. How was I not arrested for murder? I don't know. As the police officer already told me, there was a CCTV in this area. Or was there? Wait, was there really a CCTV in this area? Something felt extremely peculiar. Excuse me, officer, I asked, confused. The police officer did not respond to me. Officer? Then the police officer slammed his brakes on. Officer! I asked frantically. The officer turned his head towards me, and I began to shake hysterically. Don't worry, buddy. It was just a prank, said Tony with a hearty smile on his face. And I was back at 33 Snooker Street, feeling sweaty and cold. That felt too real to be true. Once again, I began to doubt what was true and what wasn't real. I doubted my own sanity yet again. Of course, there were no photographs. There was no camcorder, and there was no police officer. Even when I looked around the apartment more thoroughly, I couldn't find anything that would indicate that those things were actually here. When I returned to my apartment, I opened my fridge and hesitated. It's just a coping mechanism, I thought. I grabbed my almost finished bottle of vodka and poured it down my throat, feeling the burning sensation as it rushed down to my stomach. If I knew what was real and what wasn't real, I would be happy to go to the police station to confess. But in all honesty, I didn't even know what to believe anymore. Tony and Lucy, did you actually exist? Or are you just a figment of my imagination?